Welcome to Future Talk. On today's program, we're going to talk about some of the new scientific breakthroughs that are going to change our lives in the next few years and the culture of innovation that will make them possible. My guest is Norman Winarsky, past president of SRI Ventures, which is a part of SRI International, where he built the SRI venture process and helped found about 60 technology companies valued at over $25 billion. They include Nuance, which is the leading speech recognition company, Intuitive Surgical, which is a pioneer in robotic surgery, and Siri, the maker of the natural language and artificial intelligence software that was acquired by Steve Jobs for the iPhone. He and his team also won an Emmy Award for their contributions to high-definition television. He has a PhD in mathematics from the University of Chicago. He's been a member of the Institute for Advanced Study at Princeton University and is a lecturer at the Stanford Graduate School of Business. He's the co-author of the recent book, If You Really Want to Change the World, A Guide to Creating, Building, and Sustaining Breakthrough Ventures. It's a roadmap for entrepreneurs who want to build world-changing companies. Norman, great to have you on the program today.
Thank you for having me, Marty. It's a pleasure to be here.
So what would you say are some of the world-changing breakthroughs that we're likely to see in our lives in the next few years?
Well, we're in a remarkable time. I've never seen in my life an opportunity like we have today to see these great technologies come to the fore. These include artificial intelligence, as you know, and all the aspects of artificial intelligence. And these aspects include natural language understanding, they include computer vision, they include machine learning. All of these will have a major impact in the market. Also, robotics is going to take over in a whole new way. Also, medical devices and health, these will all be transformed in the future. And I don't mean long future. I mean in the next 2 or 3 years.
Now, does technology usually start with a problem to be solved, some pain point that you want to alleviate by creating a technology? Is that the origin, fixing a problem of some kind?
Well, great technology sometimes has no market pain point in the beginning. Great researchers, great scientists, universities and labs and the like, they invent these kind of technologies. But to reach the market, and this is part of the book I wrote, to reach the market, technology alone cannot be pushed into the market. Technology must be a solution to a market problem, to a market pain point. And the greater the pain point and the greater the market opportunity, that's where you'll have a great breakthrough company that gets built and also is successful in helping many people around the world.
Well, let's talk about artificial intelligence, for example, because everybody is talking about AI these days. Right. Is AI trying to solve some problem? What is the ultimate goal of artificial intelligence? Is it to replace human intelligence? Is it to allow machines to make our decisions for us so we don't have to make them?
Well, AI is, as most people know, has gone through a cycle of hype and despair and then back again to reality. I first of all want to express my opinion that AI is now in the reality stage. We are now able, for many types of applications, to apply AI to solving breakthrough problems. In terms, though, of your question, are we building things that don't need human intervention, that are best done without people, things of that nature? No. My feeling is the great impact that AI will have will be an impact in terms of assisting humans, not replacing them.
So let's say in 5 or 10 years, your home is equipped with AI.
Yeah.
What sort of things will it do? How will it make your life better?
Well, it's going to make your life better in many, many ways. Inside the home, outside the home, in the hospital, in your office, everywhere. But let's just talk about in your home right now. We have an aging population. This causes problems where people trip, people need help, people need companionship. Well, imagine systems that can assist you, small robotic systems. Robots are going to leave the cage. They say the cage because they've been in enterprises like in automobile manufacturing where you don't want to get near a person. They're going to hurt you if a robot in a manufacturing facility gets near people. They're leaving the cage. They're going to be in your home now. They're going to assist you in communications. They're going to assist you in, as you know, with Roomba, helping clean your floors. They're going to get the newspaper. They're going to be enable you to have social and emotional connections with people.
So will it cook your dinner? Will it say, robot, go cook my dinner while I'm watching TV?
Well, you're going to start seeing robotics in the home.
Like a servant?
Yeah, but not quite. I don't think it'll start, well, it might start doing that. And if you're talking 5 to 10 years, for sure. If you're talking 2 to 3 years, you'll start seeing robots that are assisting you in getting things, or even loading the dishwasher, or helping fold your clothes. Things that haven't happened before are going to start to happen. And by the way, the kind of technology that does that is not just a technology that understands and recognizes your intent and actually acts on it, but it's also a technology that learns, that understands context, a technology that can assist you in your normal life.
When we talk about learning, there's something called deep networks or neural networks, where the computer is designed to simulate the working of your own nervous system. Could you say a few words about what that actually means?
Okay, so deep learning is a science and a technology that actually began 20, 30 years ago, called convolutional neural nets. This kind of technology tried to simulate what a human brain looks like with neurons that are sending information to another neuron, to layers of neurons, sending information to layers of neurons, and so forth. And so they built that system. 20 or 30 years ago, you could not compute enough. They were called toy systems, a few neurons and a few layers and so forth. And so it didn't work. We didn't have that kind of ability for those systems to actually perform and understand and recognize the tasks that they needed to do. We now have the ability, through breakthroughs that have occurred all over the world, to train, what they call train these systems, by simulating human behavior or human data or human input, or actually it doesn't have to be human. They could simulate data from a variety of sources, and then from that simulation, they can learn.
So the big breakthrough is really in the crunch power of the computer itself that lets it manage that much information?
So it's, I would call it colliding exponentials. One exponential is certainly Moore's law and the power of computers. Another one is the communications capability, where computers are able to share with you and with each other information, networking. Big data in terms of cloud services, for example, is also a major impact. And the ability to gather data itself. Data is becoming the gold. This is the gold of the 21st century. The software used to be, people would say, software's eating the world, Mark Andreessen saying that. It's the data. The software is actually simulating and capable of performing these new tasks using algorithms that many of which were discovered years ago. Many are relatively new, but still, the ability to recognize and assimilate vast amounts of data and see how humans use that data, and then to simulate the human behavior. That's how AI works. Or that's how deep learning works, I should say.
Is there anything that humans can do that AI can't? Is there some innate capability of the human mind that cannot be duplicated by a machine, no matter how much crunch power it has?
Yeah, well, the Turing test was, an example of, could you put a person and computers behind a screen, and would you be able to differentiate between the human and the computer? I don't think we're going to be anywhere near that capability for many, many years. I mean, Kurzweil thought the singularity would occur around that point. I think that also beyond that, humans have an ability to think, understand context, understand and learn from you and your information, your preferences. They have an ability to interact and communicate and understand the full environment that they're part of. Machines are nowhere near that capability yet. So AI, in my opinion, will not have that kind of capability for many decades.
Is it because of the lack of computer crunch power, or we just don't understand the workings?
When you and I talk to each other right now, I know the context of you. I know that you're looking at me. I know that we're talking about giving a talk about AI. I know that we're in a studio. I know all these things. That's not something that's normally input into, and I know our location. It's not normally input into an AI system. It's not part of all the data. There's a massive amount of data, and it's not just communicating back and forth, that you need to understand how to assist someone in their normal day-to-day life.
You know, I'm very interested in the way a concept turns into a product, turns into a company, turns into something that changes people's lives. I'd like to talk about Siri a little bit as a case study, the voice application on the iPhone. In fact, your book deals with it a lot. In fact, here's your copy of the book. If you really want to change the world, and this book is sort of a guide for entrepreneurs who want to change the world. So if you are an aspiring entrepreneur, you want to change the world, you might consider this. So let's take the case of Siri, for example. Was it obvious that this was what was needed? I mean, did you have to convince people that, you know, voice recognition might be important? How did the whole thing get started?
So, first of all, Siri is an iconic example of how we believe we should create companies. When I was at SRI. SRI is founded as Stanford Research Institute, has about 2,500 people. We had a ventures group that created ventures out of this great technology. So technology alone does not give us the basis for a venture, unfortunately, because there's so many great breakthrough technologies. But in fact, as we said earlier in this conversation, technology has to be a solution to a market problem. So what was the market problem? Most people think Siri was started because we had great natural language technology, great speech recognition, great AI stuff. Let's go start a company. Absolutely not. I mean, if there's anything I want to express in this book, it's that is not a way to start a company, because that's a solution to a problem that has yet to be understood. What problem are you solving? So what we did at SRI is, it took years. We worked with DARPA to do new technologies in natural language and AI. We worked on a program called CALO, Cognitive Assistant that learns and organizes. And we understood many, many great things about what that market looked like. And finally we began, and I had insights, and I have to say, we meaning the team, Don Kittless, who we recruited to be the CEO, Adam Shire, Tom Gruber. These were great people where we worked together and said, what problem, what market problem are we really solving? Because it's not, hey, I've got some great AI, what do I do with it? And the market problem that we finally discovered was, and this was 2007, when the iPhone was first coming out, that people were accessing web services like hotel reservations, restaurant reservations, weather, you name it, by clicking, pointing and clicking.
Typing on that tiny keyboard.
Typing on that tiny keyboard. And that was a major problem at the time. Now you see these people, you know, remarkable speed in younger kids. But it was a major problem at the time. And we understood that people wanted to access web services wanted to be accessed, and people were dropping out at 20% a click. And that became the breakthrough idea behind the market problem. We could actually measure how much was lost, how much revenue was lost, how long it took for someone to access a web service. What was the solution? What was the breakthrough solution? Understand the intent of a person's request. Get me a hotel reservation tomorrow night in San Francisco for 3 people. That kind of intent was understood. Reason about the intent, not word by word recognition. We did that with Nuance long earlier. But reason about what you wanted. Go to the web services with 0 clicks, answer that with an answer for the person, and then give that answer back to the person. That was the breakthrough in Siri.
So then, how does Siri make money? It's a free app. You're saying that if you book a reservation, the hotel that you booked the reservation with pays Siri because Siri led them to it?
Yeah, so in fact, it was called lead generation. If Siri led you to hotels.com and you booked a hotel, that lead generation would pay money back to the company Siri.
Now, when we talk about entrepreneurship in Silicon Valley, there's a phrase that is very commonly used called value proposition.
Yeah, yeah.
What do we mean by value proposition?
So a value proposition is, in fact, a major part of what's often missing when people are creating companies. And it's something I teach at Stanford and also give many talks around the world. A value proposition is a way of articulating what is first of all, it's a word proposition. It's your theory, it's your hypothesis. That's what they mean by value proposition. I have a hypothesis that this company will create this value. A value proposition has primary elements of a market problem. What problem? Market pain point. What problem are you solving? What differentiated solution do you have? Breakthrough solution. What's going to make you different from all the other possible solutions? What great team do you have that has the domain experience and the expertise to be part of that opportunity? And within all of that, what is the overall value that you're going to deliver back to the market and to the customer? So that's a value proposition. And truthfully, anyone that goes in front of a venture capitalist ought to have those elements as the primary elements, and then many more in terms of understanding the depth of your venture idea.
Well, at some point with Siri, it became clear, I think, that the product could be built, but it would take maybe more capital than you had. You had to go out and get investors.
Right.
What do you have to convince the investors of before they invest? They might get 100 proposals and pick one.
Yeah. So Siri, in order to convince investors, by the way, we had a multiple aspects that we could show. First of all, to convince them, we had a demo. Believe me, it's very hard to get any kind of company funded with a PowerPoint alone.
You have to show something.
You have to show something, some kind of demonstration. So it was those elements of the value proposition that I spoke to that really made the difference. A market problem where we were now solving a market problem that was clear that it would have a great benefit in terms of the use of Siri. It wasn't just, I have some great technology to do it. In fact, venture capitalists or in the past, before Siri, were often told, I've got this great opportunity, I think we should do it. And the answer to those people was, we've heard about this for 20 years, and it'll be 20 years again before we hear more about this. So why now? They're always asking, why now? That was one major element of the value proposition.
Now, at some point, SRI would typically develop a technology and then spin it off into a company that was outside of SRI. Now, how does that work? Do most of the people who worked on it at SRI leave SRI and go to work for the new company, and is that a loss for SRI?
So, yeah, so that's a great question. The ventures group at SRI, the one I was president of, is responsible for helping create ventures or licenses. And the process for creating those ventures is what we built. And we're responsible for creating and launching those into the world. So it's like an incubator, except beyond being an incubator, because we created the value proposition, we recruited team members, we built the company from within SRI, we invested the intellectual property, negotiated and found the venture capitalists, launched the venture, and took board seats as well. So that process of how you do it is something we should have a major discussion about.
Now, do the venture capitalists typically bring in their own people, like maybe they bring in their own CEO, their own chief financial officer?
Right. So the answer is usually not. The people come, as you asked earlier, the people come from multiple areas. First of all, it is true that when we started ventures, often, not always, but almost always, people from within SRI would leave to join the venture. But many people would stay. Now, why would they be motivated to help at all if they're not going to be part of the venture? SRI had a great model, has a great model, for rewarding staff through a venture and through an equity and royalty sharing agreement, so that even if they don't go, in fact, if they don't go, they get it. If they do go, they lose what's called vesting. They're not vested in it. And so they're motivated to stay at SRI, but they're also, if they want to be part of the venture, they can leave. We would also recruit from outside. So Doug Kittless at Siri came from Motorola originally. And Tom Gruber came from Stanford and other consulting relationships he had.
Now, after Siri had been an independent company for just a short time, Steve Jobs bought it for Apple. Did he take one look at it and say, I have to get this? We need this for the iPhone?
Okay, so what happened was we had 2008 in January, we started Siri. This was a great moment. We had great investors, by the way, Gary Morgenthaler from Morgenthaler Ventures and Sean Carolyn from Menlo Ventures. Later on, we had Selena Chow from Horizons Ventures, also part of this. And so we had great investors. We were ready to move ahead. 2 years later, 2010, we finally got to the point, and this is late to get to a point to launch a product. We finally got to the point to launch the product in February, I believe, 2010. Next thing we know, great product out. It's out a few days, a week, I can't remember how long. And the CEO of the company, Doug Kittless, gets a phone call. And it goes like this. It says, hi, this is Steve. Now, don't forget, this is on his mobile phone. Don't know how they got the phone number. Doug says, Steve who? He says, Steve Jobs. And Doug says, right. And he hangs up. So calls back again. Steve says, no, really, this is Steve Jobs. I'd like to talk to you. Would you like to come over to dinner tonight? You and the other founders come on over. And so Doug called the board, and I was part of the board, as well as Gary and Sean and others, and said, what do I do? Steve Jobs wants to have us over tonight. Well, we said go, but just don't talk about money. You know, find out what he really wants, and this is valuable. Over a period of 2 to 4 weeks, Steve called a couple dozen times. And eventually there was an offer that was brought to the company to acquire it that everybody was happy with.
And Apple was pretty happy with it too, because typing, well, before Apple bought it, I mean, who did you sell it to? Who was the market? Was it an independent app?
Yeah.
For cell phones?
So when SRI launches a venture, such as Siri and 50 others or 60 others, each venture becomes independent. In fact, SRI becomes a minority holder of the company. Venture capitalists are minority holders. The team becomes minority holders. And together, they have a startup that's owned by and managed by the shareholders and has its own board and all of that. So that's how we start companies. That company was independent, you know, and as the other 50 or 60 or others are, and then went on until it became obviously a company that could potentially be acquired or go IPO or the like. And in fact, part of the case study I do at Stanford is, you know, what would you have done? Would you have sold the company, or would you have tried to go IPO and make yourself another unicorn?
Let me ask you this, because we just have a few minutes left.
Yeah.
Technology is changing the world at a very rapid pace. Your book is all about changing the world.
Right.
Is change per se always a good thing? Should change always be preferred to keeping things the way they are? And is change leading us in some direction that maybe we're not sure where we're going, and maybe ultimately it won't be that great? Right.
So unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your point of view, we don't have a choice. The raw material of technology, the great science, the great engineering is happening now, and faster because of these colliding exponentials that we talked about, whether it's Moore's law or storage or cloud services or any of the other exponentials that are happening. And as a result, you have no choice. Technology is now practically at the stage where you can make a disruption in almost every industry, whether it's health, entertainment, media, travel, you name it. Every industry is at risk. And so this will have a major impact. Now, Is there a negative side to this? Absolutely. Can it be used for weapons? Absolutely. Can it be used to damage and steal your identity? Absolutely. Can it be used for purposes that you can't even imagine? Absolutely. And that's not something we can control other than to try and do our best to have the world recognize the value of it and to understand as best we can how to protect this in a way that makes it helpful rather than harmful.
Is anybody really working on that issue of how to keep this technology from getting out of control and killing all of us? I mean, can you make a business out of that? Can you make money doing that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So in every business, there's probably, you know, at least these days, you know, there's ethical officers, security officers. So, you know, for example, you're maintaining security of your digital identity is crucial to your life. You know, you've got your health there in terms of, and there are laws relating to that, HIPAA laws. You've got your identity, that your bank accounts and the like could be stolen. This is terribly risky if we don't work hard on maintaining the privacy and security of your use of these technologies. At the same time, it offers great promise, and so it will go ahead. That's the only thing I have to say. We have no choice.
So there's no stopping this juggernaut. It's going to keep going until it rolls over us, so we ride it to some wonderful place? Well,
yeah, you're right. I mean, it may end up with us having sticks and stones if we don't protect the world properly. But what I believe deeply, I'm an optimistic person, and I believe deeply that technology is in fact a way that we can have a better life and a better world, that we can transform our world in a way that's incredibly positive. Health is a good example.
Great. That's a good note to end on, and we are going to have to end because we are out of time. I've been speaking with Norman Winarsky, past president of SRI Ventures. I'm Marty Wasserman. Visit our website, www.futuretalk.net. We'll see you next time.